Let's move into another story, though, because this is a repulsive, repugnant story, and hopefully nothing's happened to our audio. Treaty provisions are set to be scrapped from the Corrections Amendment Bill. A story on TVNZ, it's brief. I mean, the written word probably is more descriptive than anything else. But let's have a look what this government is deciding to do with corrections.
Multiple treaty provisions are set to be scrapped from a bill governing our corrections system. It comes as the government looks to review all references to the treaty in legislation. Our Māori Affairs correspondent, Tiana Wahuri-Hanganui, reports.
There's a common thread that binds these former inmates.
Been born into gang or an environment of domestic violence, drugs, alcohol.
All of them are traumatised.
And many of them are Māori. Staff at the Grace Foundation say the key to keeping them out of prison is connection to culture.
They're Māori.
Now, can someone confirm in the chat for me, Dave Littell, obviously the brown butterbean, Dave Littell as well. Dad, I'm assuming dad and son. I'm assuming. Someone can confirm that for me if you want.
But there's no identity there.
The ultimate aim for us is to repatriate them or to have them reconnect with their whānau.
But treaty provisions in the Corrections Amendment Bill that would have compelled the department to ensure prisoners have access to cultural programs like this are now on the chopping block.
It's really a whitewash of the care that's required, that's unique to our culture.
Other treaty provisions set to be scrapped include a requirement to provide equitable rehabilitation outcomes for Māori, allowing inmates to take time away from prison to access cultural activities, and taking into account the views of whānau and iwi when deciding where an offender is detained.
Now, for me, this is what happens, yeah? If this is the best way for this particular individual who is Māori, who is in prison, when they get released from prison, because remember that's 99 point whatever % of people in prison, to then be successful out of prison, then we should support it wholeheartedly. And I'm pretty sure the research is clear about this. However, this government has a couple of add-ons in ACT and New Zealand First that got elected, even though their leaders are Māori, to put their knee on the neck of Māori. There is no reason to get rid of this. There is literally no reason other than, it feels a bit weird that those Māori can go into a meeting and others can't. It's disgusting.
To be honest with you, corrections have got very strong relationships with iwi and hapu now. That is a critical part of how we do business.
But if it's a critical part, Mr. Mitchell, then why would you remove another arrow in your quiver of how to help Māori going through that system? If it's a critical part, the relationship between corrections and iwi, then why would you remove another way to help Māori be successful once they get out of prison? It just seems to make no sense to me.
This is a ministry where there is an over-incarceration of Māori people, and this is a straight-up treaty abuse.
A review into treaty clauses in all legislation is currently underway. As for the Corrections Amendment Bill,
there is no point in actually adding these provisions until that review is completed.
We asked if he could foresee provisions.
There is quite a lot of wait and see at the moment, isn't there? I mean, we just literally got that from Bishop. Oh, it's just a discussion document. It's just a discussion document. Wait and see, wait and see. And again, Mitchell. Bit of a wait and see.
Being put back into the Corrections Bill after the review.
I'm not going to prejudge that.
Cold comfort to the people who run programs like these.
I like it how they say, I'm not going to prejudge the bill, yet everything they're doing and trying to remove is quite literally judging the bill. So just as a reminder, as I said, I think the text version was as good. Last month, so this was ideas and initiatives put in by the Labour government. Iwi and Māori experts throughout the country were involved in the development of draft treaty provisions, and the legislation was introduced to Parliament by Labour. But of course, Labour bad, so we need to get rid of it. Last month, Corrections Minister Mark Mitchell sought Cabinet approval to remove these provisions in their entirety. They include equitable rehabilitation and reintegration outcomes for Māori, a requirement on the Chief Executive to ensure the development, maintenance and implementation of a strategy that is focused on improving outcomes for Māori in the corrections system to address long-standing Māori needs. Now, to already get in here and figure it out, if the biggest chunk of people in your establishment, which in this instance is a prison, are Māori, yet you're saying we aren't going to do anything for Māori, that would seem to be counterproductive as well. Another thing that was in the legislation, making access to cultural activities a purpose for which prisoners can be temporarily released or temporarily removed from prison. Ensuring prisoners have access to cultural activities regardless of the prison in which they are detained. So they're literally removing the idea that prisoners can have access to part of their culture, activities that reflect their culture in prison. So they always talk about those kind of four walls that are in a when you get put in solitary confinement being the worst. I mean, if you're just basically removing every element that someone can relate to through their culture from the whole grounds, from things you can do, it just must be like the whole thing is a single cell. It'd be awful. Enable the views of whānau, hapu and iwi to be taken into account where appropriate and practicable in decisions about which prison offenders are accommodated in. Very, 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 very clear wording here as well, where appropriate and practicable. So if a prisoner is high need, high danger, and there's nothing locally which can suit them, then they need to go to a more secure facility elsewhere. If they're low risk and somewhere locally can house them that's near their their family in particular, then they can take that into account. It just seems, I mean, we keep talking about this government being mean, and I'm sort of aware that that's got kind of a, teenage girl vibe to it, but it just seems that so much of what they're trying to do is vindictive, just vindictive and nasty, and won't give them the outcomes, Mr. Luxon, that you keep telling us you won't give them the outcomes that are best for New Zealand overall.